live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live on YouTube? Live YouTube session in full effect? Let us know. Oh, that's a good thing. We are live. blessings, greetings, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Nirvana City Podcast. Nirvana City Podcast. Episode number
7.
Wow, we've done 7. That's cool. We've been having a lot of fun talking about all kinds of stuff. And today we're going to be talking about art and culture. How does art affect culture? I think a good way to start that conversation is oming together. How art thou? What do you say we do 3 ohms together? Yay! Let's rub our hands at our heart center. Mr. Miyagi-san, come on, everybody at home. Got one dude out there.
Okay, we're going to bring the space together in the same way that we usually start the panel, which is with 3 ohms. Greg? Yeah, welcome to Nirvana City.
That always feels so good. Why do I not ohm more? I should just be ohming all freaking day long and just feel great all day long. I guess that's what art does for me, though. When I'm in a creative state of mind, I feel really good, similar to ohming, you know? And we're here creating our own reality with the art that we create. Nirvana City is a place of rich culture, diversity, and freaking amazing art.
It's chock full of artists and art.
Artists. Like David, our DJ. David!
Yeah, snap.
YouTube was watching you for a while. Your set. That was cool. We got to start off with Brother David on the 1s and 2s. We got Sky in the house.
How's it going?
Mama Sharon, super goddess of goddesses, the mama of the mamas. Then we got this brother here today who I just met, but you're about to learn a lot about him. He's a lot of things having to do with art. I want to know more. Tell us who you are.
My name is Brian Chambers. I am the owner and curator of the Chambers Project Gallery in Grass Valley and the founder of our newly formed 501c3 called PACT, which is the Psychedelic Arts and Culture Trust.
That's
Thank
cool.
you. That sounds so cool.
It is cool. We're having a lot of fun doing it.
And I've heard a lot about you just because I've seen a lot of your curated art, I suppose that's what you'd call it. Like at the Communal Cafe, you have a whole gallery set up, right?
I do, yeah. I set that up in October. It's kind of a selection of pretty much all local artists at this point, but some of my favorite artists and the psychedelic aesthetic that I love and have dedicated my life to.
I wish I had some to show people right now, but you're going to have to check this stuff out. You're going to have to find it. Or if you live here in Nirvana City, you should go to Communal Cafe and check it out if you've not seen the pieces yet. But let me take a moment to actually thank Elixart for having us and sponsoring us and bringing us the tastiest of drinks. Sharon's got a special offer for everybody that came here today, too. Sharon, you want to bless up the people?
Yes, people. Thanks for joining us again. And we were going to, last time we opened the episode with a communal kava ceremony. And so I wanted to say again, if you're here and you need a drink or would like a drink, we have Carly at the bar serving on tap a little combo of the Golden Healer in Champagne Jun. And the Golden Healer is like really great for this time of night. It's anti-inflammatory with turmeric and ginger. And the Champagne Jun is brewed and fermented in-house. And if you haven't tried it, you should try it. And yeah, thanks again. Welcome, Sky. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
I just saw your space, Brian, for the first time on Saturday night with Sky doing this epic sketch comedy variety show.
What space are you talking about?
So there's a space that's a curated art gallery, which has a show that Brian was just telling me is 18 individuals, I guess around, do you want to explain what the curated show is?
Yeah. Currently the show in the gallery is called Optodelical, and it's kind of a survey. It's a group show with 18 of my favorite contemporary artists that all ventured into op art for this particular show. A lot of them have explored this medium and this sort of aesthetic before, but for many of them, it was kind of their first foray into op art. Op art's been around for a very long time, but hasn't really been the focus of many gallery shows.
What's op art?
Op art is art that is created with the intention of making your eyes wiggle, optical illusions. M.C. Escher is certainly like one of the pioneers and the godfathers of the space. Bridget Riley, Victor Vassarelli. They're some of the old school people that kind of defined the movement. But yeah, it's always been some of my favorite. I love looking at things that are difficult to look at and and make your eyes move. So it'll be up for a few months. I'd love to show you guys around if anybody feels like coming through sometime.
How do people find out where that is?
We are at 627 East Main Street in Grass Valley. If you know where Natural Selections is, we're the big white warehouse building on the same side of the street, just past Natural Selections, the next driveway on the right. There's a big painted school bus out in front.
That's cool, man. So tell me this, has there been one painting out of all the paintings that you've come across in your life that's affected you the most, and how?
Oh man, well, there's a lot.
I'm sure there's a bunch, but name one like the most that's affected your life.
Well, I suppose I'm a collector to the core, and my collection began in the 80s with Smurfs, and then it was baseball cards and comic books, and then in the 90s, once I got into high school, it was concert posters, and then once I discovered the psychedelic side of life, I got really lucky. I grew up in Tennessee, and in 1995, as a sophomore in high school, my high school science teacher had an Alex Gray poster hanging on the wall.
Alex Gray was the entry point.
He's the gateway for many people in the arts.
He's definitely op art, right?
I wouldn't say he's op art. No.
No?
No, I would say he's visionary art.
Okay.
But certainly psychedelic as well. You know, I think oftentimes visionary and psychedelic are kind of run parallel to each other. I have my own opinion of the distinction between the two. But one day while I was on acid in science class in my high school, my science teacher told us that this art was inspired by LSD, and I suppose that was a pretty significant moment in my life, and that's when I began my research into psychedelic art as a movement and focused all my collective energies into feeding my head with as much information as I could gather, and that's when my collecting and curating of psychedelic art really kicked into high gear. So I suppose that would probably be a pretty significant piece for me.
And how did it affect you, though?
Well, I mean,
And why?
Why? Well, visually, it's just stunning. Are you familiar with Alex Gray?
Yeah, very.
Okay, so you know, I love the anatomy of everything. I love. I mean, it's fun to look at, you know. But what it did for me is probably more of an effect on just the way that I thought about art. I still love Alex Gray. He's a very dear friend of mine. I always love his art. But what it did for me was just open me up and let me know that this is a bigger thing, and you know, you can kind of carve your own journey, and that's something that I've been doing ever since. So it really just identified that it was not just me, and that psychedelic art is a thing, and you know, that's what I've been doing ever since, is just educating myself and doing everything that I can to help tell the story and to share the art and the historical significance, and contextualizing it and sharing it with as many people as I can.
That's beautiful. I love the fact that this artist, Alex Gray, opened up your mind and inspired basically like your career. So the culture of your life was affected by a piece of art. And I'm sure one of so many, I'm sure you could name. Give us one more piece that's affected you, and why.
Well, that same year, I read the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Ralph Steadman has been a key player in my life and career. He's been one of my favorite artists for 30 years, and a dear friend that I've been working directly with over the last 12 years. Rick Griffin, I discovered him that same year. He's one of the godfathers of the concert poster movement. And I think if I had to pick one favorite artist, I would have to say it's probably Rick Griffin. You know, I kind of think he was a pioneer of many underground art movements. He was kind of at the forefront of surfing art, underground comics, concert posters, and I think the vast amount of diverse work that he created in his, unfortunately, very short life of 47 years was, you know, very hard to touch and is very timeless. I don't think there's anybody that can touch his skill with a pen and the lettering, the typography, and just so much of, you know, the defining imagery that he created during the 60s is...
it is some defining imagery, yeah, of the 60s and 70s.
I'm not familiar. We're going to have to pull it up.
It's like the original Grateful Dead posters, like some of the most iconic images from the 60s and 70s.
I love the dead art so much. I think our next podcast we should have the screen behind us, and we can pull down and we can pull up the things up on the screen. That would be cool.
I also had this cool art history teacher in college when we were like, you know, doing we were going to like the National Gallery of Art, and I went to school in Washington, D.C. So we were like in all these big National Gallery art places, and a girlfriend of mine like kind of peeled off and said, "Hey, can we do this like side quest and cover Alex Gray?" And we took a side quest to New York City and went to the Chapel of Mirrors. It's called
Sacred Mirrors. Yep.
Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. Obviously high, probably sophomore year of college though. And it was definitely a formative experience. I would say that whole day was a really formative experience, but seeing the scale, like life-size scaled anatomy and different dimensions on a flat canvas, and then also seeing some things in three-dimensionally.
Well, Sharon, answer me this, would you? What artist or piece of art, any medium, whether it's painting or music or art of any kind, has affected you the most in your life, and why?
I would probably choose the medium of music. I think that's affected me most. And
Who? Your number one.
I mean, it's probably Fish. That's pretty cheesy.
No, it's
like,
not.
Love it.
Wolfie, trying to live a life that's still free.
There is such a culture. There's such a, not underground anymore, but in the 90s, yeah, when we were using, like, getting tapes of live shows and, like, trading them up and down the East Coast, that was definitely a defining cultural moment.
I am a huge Fish fan as well, and it satisfied the collector in me, just like you, Brian. Like, I collected baseball cards, and then eventually I was like, no, I can actually collect concerts from every show these guys have ever played. And at first it was those tapes that we would send around, and then CDs, and now it's all online. I can find all of it, and there's just so much listening to do with that band.
How like, what did Fish do for you? How did the band Fish change your life?
Me or Sky?
Both of you.
I would speak to the culture probably more so than other things. I mean, I think that was definitely the gateway into festival culture for me, which is probably one of the reasons that I landed on the West Coast from the East Coast right after college. I was like rather than pursuing political journalism like I expected that I would, I booked it to San Francisco, and I don't remember if I followed the band there or not, like for a summer tour going from East Coast to West Coast, but yeah, I was just confident. I became confident that I could like follow my intuition to what the next best thing, the next greatest show, the next like magical moment on mushrooms with strangers. So I think there was really like a cultural novelty about that for me, and yeah, I
Did they help make you who you are?
I don't know I'm not sure. I feel like a very different person than like the tour person that I was.
Yeah, but they definitely had a hand in creating Sharon.
Yes, and you know, I listened to Fish through all 3 pregnancies. There were like some different directions. Like I wanted to listen to like cathedral music, I think at some point with one pregnancy, and there was like West African drumming in another, and like, but the central thread was always some bouncy happy Fish.
Yeah.
And
that's why your kids are so happy.
I think it's also really, if you have like traveled with a culture for that long, you like know the milestones as well. And so like there really have been some deeply emotionally moving moments and shows when there's some context around what the band has been through that year, or what's, you know, moving through the culture that year, and how a certain show is curated, because this band does like goofy things like that are always curating new shows based on, yeah, silly or really relevant themes sometimes.
And what's unique about Fish is that so much of it is instrumental and improvisational. So there's this mindset that it creates in you, this jamming, anything can happen, constant inspiration from each other, constant musical communication. And it had the same effect on me as like Alex Grey also kind of had. It showed a little bit like what's possible. You know, it opened up, you know, what came first, the psychedelic experience or the psychedelic art for me. You know, I didn't grow up too much. You know, I grew up in South Dakota. It was the one state that Grateful Dead and Phish never toured, never played. It was not, the tour culture was never my thing. It was all about this music, and even marijuana was like dangerous to do in South Dakota. You know, it's very, very strict out there. And so I got into these things a little bit late, but I always had this art that kind of showed me, oh, that's what the experience is kind of like. It transmuted without having to actually be in a certain place, to actually be in a certain state of mind. I could see what it was like. I could look at a piece of Alex Grey and be like, oh, that's what DMT probably is like. And then you do DMT, and then you start having those images, and it's like, well, am I having those images because of the art? Or, you know, or is that what would have been happening regardless? And I think that's what I'm interested in picking everybody's brain about. Like, what comes first, the art or the experience? And then how do we remember the experience through art?
Well, man, that's deep. But the through line is, you know, you become your association. The art that you consume, you become. And what do you think God meant when he said, or I don't know if it was God that said this, but how art thou? Like, what is that saying? How art thou, Mr. Chambers? What does that mean to you, how art thou?
How art thou?
Yeah.
Art, Marcy all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're arting.
I'm arting.
Not farting, you're arting.
Definitely arting.
Farting sometimes. Yeah.
Gregory,
Yeah.
you're part of, well, you are art, right? There's a form of you that is entirely art, that you're the voice actor for.
Yeah, many pieces of art have my voice inside of it. And I've witnessed this form of art called cartoons shift and create reality. Because these characters that I've helped create have created reality because it's what kids consume. Having like the #1 TV cartoon in the whole world is it's a powerful tool of creating reality. So any moment I had, any opportunity I had to infuse consciousness or great lessons into the cartoons that I make, I do, because I realize I'm making a big impact with the art that I'm a part of. So the kids consume it, and it becomes their reality. So it's very special to realize you have the opportunity to create reality with art. Yeah.
Art and music is how I got to know my parents, basically, when I was a kid. You know, speaking of like when you're young, how do you know what it was like in the 60s? You listen to the Beatles, and you listen to all the Beatles albums in order, and you listen to your parents' stories, you know, talking about being in the dorm, listening to that last chord of A Day in the Life, and everybody just sitting there listening until it disappeared, and you can kind of transport yourself into the past, and that's how I really got to know my parents.
That song really used to scare me.
I think it's so.
The end of that song.
It's so important to consume what you want to become ultimately, and that's how the world is created. So art really does create reality. So I think it's art first. It's not art. It's not art imitates life. It's life imitates art. And the controller of what people hear and see controls how their minds work, which therefore creates our reality. So the ones who control that power the most create this reality based on the art they're putting out. And there's a lot of shitty art, like politics. And they shove that down people's throat, and the world becomes a little shittier. So what happens is we need to create really badass art and present it like Mr. Chambers here is doing, or even this cool podcast that you're watching, because we're creating a different reality by spreading love and consciousness and exploration of cool things. It makes a cooler world. So it does matter. Everything you do, you're arting.
Mm-hmm.
And the art is what lasts. You know, the good art is what lasts.
Not CDs.
I still have all my old mixed CDs, man. I don't listen to them, but I have them.
Sky, I wanted to ask you about, you're a prolific performance artist. You've also embodied Johnny Cash completely for like
9 years
9
now.
years, almost a decade.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So I'm a theater actor. I've been a member of Actors Equity for 20 years, and in the last 9 years, I've been very lucky to be a regular performer as Johnny Cash in the show $1 Million Quartet, which was about Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins jamming out one day in 1956. And I was lucky enough to get an audition call and make a video and start the gig the next week and be on stage in front of the New York Times theater critic a week after that. And I got a great review in my first performance, and so I've done probably about 1,000 performances of that show.
1,000
in 9
performances
years.
as Johnny Cash, embodied and completely.
Yeah.
Speaking of Johnny Cash, as an artist, how do you think he affected the world?
Oh.
How did Johnny Cash's art affect culture?
Hugely. I mean, first of all, it was simple, to the point of distilling a certain voice. His voice was very unique, but it was also very universal. There were a lot of people who connected with the simplicity of his music, which is actually not as simple as it sounds. You play a song like Walk the Line, and it sounds like, a basic blues song, but it's not. It changes keys 5 times. If you're not paying attention, trust me, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna lose your place and you're gonna mess it up, and everybody's gonna know, because it's in their consciousness. And it has been for 70 years now.
But how did he affect culture? Like what?
Yeah, I would maybe add to that question if I could. Like, what was it? How did you pursue, like, finding his muse in that music? Like, you understand, like, his inspiration as a character?
Just to throw it out there, I think he made me more a rebellious spirit.
Oh yeah.
So Johnny Cash represents rebellious.
He had this
spirit for me.
He had this very specific combination of spirituality and rebellion, and I don't think those at that time or even today are thought of in the same way, but they should be. Christ as an activist is sometimes forgotten in the name of puritanical belief systems that people want to put on. But Johnny Cash understood that what was radical about Christianity and about his faith was the radical act of self-forgiveness and seeking self-forgiveness and seeking redemption. Bob Marley also understood that aspect of the combination of religion and activism. And once Johnny felt that for himself, once he forgave himself and felt the power of, his religion saving his soul, or his wife June eventually saving him from addiction, he had to spread that to the rest of the world, and he did everything he could to do that through his music, through his politics, such as they were. He wasn't a political figure in a governmental sense, but he affected things as much as any politician of the 60s and 70s. You know, he did an album, Bitter Tears, about Native American plights all over the country. And they didn't want to play it. The country music stations didn't want to play it. And he said, "You can't play any of my other music unless you play this album." And he stood up, and they hated it. They hated him for it. But he stuck to his guns, and he was right. And he got something done.
Damn,
That's
a pivotal cultural moment.
Johnny Cash is a badass. Another badass you mentioned is Bob Marley. And Bob Marley might be the biggest artist on planet Earth. Bigger than Michael Jackson. Bigger than Jesus.
Yes.
So that's art. That's,
bigger than the Beatles even.
Yeah, well, the reason why is because reggae is the most popular music on planet Earth. You go to every country, whether it's China or Ethiopia or any country, Colombia, Brazil. Bob Marley's reggae music is the biggest music in the world. It's the most recognized.
Also,
and that's due to Bob Marley in a big way.
Cross species as well. They did a study on dogs, and the music that they prefer more than any other music is reggae.
Oh my gosh, they said the same thing to me when I was like pregnant. That reggae music is like mimics the same steady like heartbeat in the background.
Yeah, it gets your heartbeat into a nice, relaxed rhythm.
But,
Nice.
The chorus is basically everywhere you go in the world, everyone loves Bob Marley.
Bob Marley brings people
loves
together.
Bob Marley. And so many artists, like Michael Jackson, and on and on and on, Prince, and Peter Tosh, and just, oh my God, The Doors, and there's an infinite list of souls that have come and blessed us with their art. So it's critical, again, to be wielding consciously the art that you're creating, because you're creating reality. And it should be a lot of fun to do, because creativity is the closest you can get to being with God, other than having a dog in your lap.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, well, I was so impressed with the show at the Chamber, the comedy show at the Chambers Project on Saturday night. That was a stunning confluence of community members.
Comedy?
Comedy, really good comedy, and really like farcical, like roasting real characters of Nirvana City. And oh man, and that felt so like I kept thinking Sky was like the VIP in all these skits, because I've like seen him in such formalized roles, I guess, and this just felt like this art for art's sake. You know, like let's just put it out there. We need to make people laugh. It's so essential at this time to like come together and laugh together and like lighten up and not take everything so seriously. And in fact, like the first astrology reading I had earlier this year, I was like 40. He was like, you just need to like scribble some poems out and like not edit it and not overthink it, and like trust your intuition that the first draft is like the muse needing to come through you in that moment. And yeah, I wonder if you or anyone wants to like speak to that cultural need right now. I've talked to you so many times, Sky, about like what I think the world is missing these days is allegory plays, where like we can kind of like, you know, put politics through this other filter that's also funny and silly, but put it in the public square and kind of start reshaping people's morality, but in community, in public community space. allegory plays. Anyone wants to collaborate, let's try it. But what I was saying before.
Wait, what is that you're proposing?
Oh, I don't know. Sky is kind of writing. I mean, you are writing one, a children's allegorical play.
Yeah. I'm writing and creating this new fantasy world called Darksember, about a world without a sun. And once I started thinking about it, I just like it led me in all these great directions of how does a society build itself without something as essential to our world and our life as a sun. And it's very nature-based. The trees themselves, their roots delved so deep into the core of the planet to soak up the sun energy from the core and bring it to the surface in the form of golden sap, which lights and warms those who drink it and eventually creates fire. And how protecting those trees, that life force, is the main organizing principle of this society. And just from there, zooming out and creating, things that I think connect us to our own world.
I think you just saved planet Earth, bro. You just saved humanity with that one. I
that's
love
the goal.
it.
To teach the kids early on to protect the trees.
Beautiful.
Or like another facet of this would be like Burning Man art, like turning, formlessness into temporary expression that is like deeply life-changing, moving for some people. And then it's, lit on fire by the end of a week or two. Anyone want to talk about that?
I just, again, feel like burning the body is such a visual. Burning Man is like, nothing is forever, so make your life a beautiful piece of art. It's like, whether you're a painter, a musician, or none of the above, realizing your life is art. Every choice you make, everything you do all day long you're creating this movie that's valuable. So like, everybody's an artist. Some are crazy artists that can make really wild things at Burning Man, big wild sculptures and like transcendental wild psychedelic art. Or you're like a preschool teacher and it's just as valuable and as important. And that's so special to realize.
How about psychedelics? Maybe you want to jump back in, Brian, but like how the psychedelic art culture shifted into burner culture, and like what do you call that?
For me personally, kind of backing up to re-answering what the most important piece of art that I ever saw or have seen.
I have a good one too I want to bring up.
I'm gonna restate that, and for me that would have to be the painting that was created at Symbiosis 2009, because that was the first collaborative painting that I ever commissioned, and at that point it was 3 of my favorite contemporary artists who were well on their way to being the superstars that they were going to be no matter what. But at that point in time, the fine art world frowned upon collaborative art, and the galleries in New York that were representing these 3 artists were very upset with me and very discouraging of them painting collaboratively. They said I was going to ruin their careers, and they did not like the idea at all. But anybody that was at that festival knows that was a very special moment in time musically, just for the arts. It was just a very high water mark. And for me, being able to share the creation of what turned out to be a masterful painting with everybody there. I watched every bit of the paint dry on that piece, and what that showed me was that providing an opportunity for many people to watch these creative masters work together and share canvas was incredibly, it was an out-of-body transcendental experience that has really shaped the way that I look at art and the way that I try to curate it. It's become my mission to share the creation process with as many people as possible because it is important, and I think it was very inspiring for a lot of people, and it's, now I do think that was kind of a pivotal moment that did influence
an entire culture behind it.
Yeah, a whole collaborative art movement that is now very common and very respected. All the galleries that were discouraging of that project back in the day have turned it around and recognized that it was actually a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea and very
That's
valuable.
so rebellious and awesome of you.
No, I love that.
Super valuable. Like, who wouldn't want like two badass artists working together and getting that piece of art that's like double the value?
That's what I always thought.
It's so cool because as a theater artist, it's always collaborative, and I never thought about how individual you think of, the art scene in being, and so that is very cool and very exciting.
What about the psychedelic movie, The Holy Mountain?
I love that movie. Yeah.
That's my favorite piece of art of all time.
Yeah. That was a classic.
But that's my favorite piece of psychedelic art ever made.
Wow.
The Holy Mountain, by far.
As far as film goes, I'm not going to really argue with that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, that affected culture big time.
For sure.
People rioted to try to stop it from being played. But you can't stop. You can't stop something good like that.
No.
Thank you, Alejandro Jodorowsky. He's still 96 years old making movies and doing tarot and making comic books. What a badass motherfucker. Dude. Yeah. He affected me big time. Also, people like spiritual teachers are artists too, because they show like how they arted their way to super consciousness, to being Buddhas, being the masters that they became. It's kind of one of my favorite forms of art to consume, is the human art, the lives of these masters that they left behind on video with their lectures when they would talk about different subjects, whether it's Ram Dass or Osho or Alan Watts. These are all of the highest order of art, the highest caliber, and they're still creating our reality based on the art that they left behind, that you can watch on YouTube right after you stop watching this podcast.
Yeah, speaking of like that Buddha state of being an artist and creating this meditation, or as a live theater experience, and especially in doing Johnny Cash for over 1,000 performances, I found around, I don't know, performance number 350, that I found myself watching myself go through and be on a little bit of autopilot sometimes, and then catch myself and be like, no, that's not how you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to be in the moment. You're supposed to be living these moments over and over as if it was the first time. And I was like, isn't that the Buddha consciousness of popping out into your monkey brain and bringing yourself back into each moment, even though you might be on a cycle of, living the same day, December 4th, 1956, over 1,000 times, plus rehearsals. And it was a really profound moment when I popped out and watched myself on autopilot, and I was like, is that what you've been doing for 100 shows? Is that the joke that you make in the background that nobody hears? All these little pieces of creativity that you don't even notice, that you don't even think about. And so I think about that in my real life, not trying to be like overly self-conscious in any way, but just in a way that lets go of watching myself and just be, even though I spend so much time working on, like a song, right? You have to work on it and play it correctly. If you're playing Beethoven and you mess up one note, you can tell. Like Beethoven wrote it so specifically and perfectly that if you miss that note, and you correct it. I forget what I was saying, but the structure of art and the looseness and inspiration dates back to the Greeks and tragedy, where we have this Dionysian kind of revelry, and then we have this Apollonian beauty, this sculpture, this creating something beautiful and tangible and perfect, with the dirty and visceral intoxication.
That's my favorite kind of art. It's like really like highbrow symbolism, mythology, like morality, and then visceral, down and dirty, raw realness.
Right, yeah.
Infused right into it.
You can see the artist was just like, and then we're going to do this, and this, and I'm not going to think about it too much, and that's what it is. And sometimes that's what it takes, is just having faith in your own art and your own ability.
To put the art out there.
There's a piece that I like so much at your setup at Communal, Brian.
Which one?
The one with the sun in the middle and the clouds. How much is that one?
I could be a great deal. That's 15.
15.
Justin Lovato, the same artist that
It's a masterpiece.
The Grass Valley mural is the one that did that.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, you own some masterpieces.
I've got a problem, and I have for a long time. I'm a pretty serious art junkie. So kind of all I got to show for my life. So I would hope I got some. Well, no, that's not true. I got a couple beautiful kids and beautiful ladies. But
There you go.
yeah, the art is the artifacts of my life.
Of all of our lives, isn't that what art kind of is, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it on the way here. I thought the podcast was going to be called Art is Culture. I kept seeing art in culture. And I was like, no, art is culture. That is how we remember our history. It's like for us as humans, our sense of smell connects us directly to a time and place in our life, in our youth. Yeah. Well, in the whole history of humanity, it's the art that is the sense of smell of our memory of ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. On that note, life moves so fast and always has, but the art, for me, looking back at different pieces of art is like a channel back into that moment in time. It's one of the only things in my life that continue to remind me of what you were doing, where you were at when this happened.
Yeah.
It's like
it's time travel.
Yeah, time traveling for sure.
Have you ever heard of George Catlin?
Yes.
Have you seen George Catlin's art before?
Minimally.
George Catlin was the only white man back in the day, way back in the day, that was allowed to go into the American Indian tribes and paint them. And he's basically like the first ever hippie. He came in like a clean-shaven, uptight looking British man, And he, by the end of his experience, he had a huge beard and full hippied out, like, wearing skins on his back. But his art, he captured time on canvas. And you can actually see these pieces of art when there's exhibits that come through your town. You can actually see what it looked like back then because he captured it perfectly. And the American Indians back then all wanted him to paint them because they thought it was magic, because it was so good. They're like, holy crap! He's a magician. Yeah, it's amazing the images that he captured. Because if he didn't capture them, we probably never would have even saw what it looked like what an American Indian village really looked like. The cities. He has paintings of what the cities look like. They're huge. Tens of thousands of people, real cities, American Indian cities. So art is critical to tell the story of what really is happening. But now with AI, I just saw a picture of Michael Jackson if he was still alive and didn't get face surgery. And he looked really good. And in 30 years, kids might search Michael Jackson, and that picture will come up, and they're like, oh, that's Michael Jackson. And AI created that. So it's about to get really weird.
I think that's a good point, especially about this is how kids are learning about the world. It's like you and I can. I still can look at a piece of AI art and be like, that's fake. I can tell. But that's going to get harder and harder and harder to do, and especially for kids, if that's just mixed in with everything, it might not be as easy. I don't know. I want to put a watermark on all the AI art.
It's too symmetrically soulless. Like every AI art I see, it's just like.
But they're getting to the point where you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
No, I just did a voice recording AI thing where they took my voice and put it into a machine, this AI database, and you cannot tell the difference between that thing and my talking at all. It's so wild.
How is that going to affect our culture?
Transhumanism.
Well, it's going to definitely affect the entertainment industry, that's for sure. It already is, because if you want to make a movie now, you can sit back and be like, yeah, make me a movie about a goddess who's got a lion and a dragon and she's going to save the world. Make it a comedy, in Act 3 she jumps off the top of a mountain and blah, blah, blah. Make it look like this, make it sound like that, and they'll just make the movie.
I still think that spark of human creativity being lacking is going to still set apart art from AI.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be both, thank God. That's the prayer.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to replace anything. And that's, again, this is as a live theater artist, that's one medium that will not be replaced by AI.
But look how small theater has gotten though compared to what it used to be.
They've been saying theater is dying for 1,000 years, and it's still here.
It is still here.
And it's still going to survive this AI thing if we go see it.
Wait a minute, aren't you AI? This is a hologram sky.
Sometimes.
I have to say that community cultural experience of just all watching comedy together in the same room after, I was looking around and we had 8 of the Elixart staff right there in the front seat, and just seeing how many community members, I know, looking around that room, so many familiar faces that have just been going through it in all different ways. And then we showed up for this live art for art's sake, just like fuck it all kind of comedy show, and it like healed people.
Yeah.
Like people were walking out of there like healed.
Yeah.
The two most powerful things on earth, in my opinion, are music and comedy, or art and comedy, essentially. They're the two most powerful things there is on the earth.
Yeah, and we had such an interesting experience yesterday because things were so funny, and then we had our first stand-up comic, and I'm not going to say any names, but he bombed, and people were not laughing, and it kind of gave us this sense of, oh, this isn't as easy as it looks, and everything else was done so well that now we can see it not being done as well, for whatever reason. He's a talented guy, but the jokes weren't for this crowd,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that was
they
accurate.
didn't land, and then once they stopped landing, it just got worse and worse and worse, and I love that we had that experience as well, to contrast
Yeah.
with how everybody was feeling about the rest of the evening. And because it takes, you put a lot of work, to tell a joke is a true art form. Comedy is harder than drama, they say. And it's true because comedy is like math. It's you got to count to 2.5 and say your next line, or you won't get the laugh.
Give us your best joke.
My best joke.
This guy had his pants down like a lot that night.
I did take my pants off a lot in the show the other night. But I mean, my best joke ever
Yeah.
is from a Laffy Taffy rapper. Remember Laffy Taffy? And they would have kids send in jokes. And for some reason, this is my favorite joke. And it was on a Laffy Taffy rapper sent in by a 5-year-old.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
How did the rabbit get over the fence?
Hopped it?
Somebody threw it. That was the joke. And it's like a Far Side cartoon. It's funny for so many reasons to me. The fact that it was a 5-year-old.
That's a good 5-year-old joke. Yeah, I've got definitely a back pocket full of 5-year-old jokes. So we don't
Give
need-
us one. Give us one.
All right, Callie made some money on this one at a festival. What's brown and sticky?
Don't say poop.
Don't say poop, but everyone thinks you're going to say poop, but it's really
Tootsie Roll.
a stick.
Oh, it's so sticky.
That's great. Brian, what's your joke?
I don't know.
Give us one.
Give me a minute.
No, I'm trying to think. I can't think of one.
Whenever anybody says
in the audience tonight, we've got some artists with us. I know that Landon has a budding artist career as a musical artist. And earlier today, Rick just shared this completed book, a mythological book. It might be with him right there at the table.
Cool. What's your book about, man?
That's a hard question, but
Come up here and talk to us about
Do
it.
we have a handheld for him?
Making a book is a big deal.
Maybe you can.
Unless you had AI do it, it's not that good.
Yeah, right here.
oh my gosh. Well, I think the easiest way for me to say is just to read this little part in the back, and this is the back.
Did you write it or did AI write it?
I wrote it with the help of AI.
Oh, cool.
I feel like this has all of my soul in it,
Oh, beautiful.
and trained AI to speak for me.
I've seen programs that really go deep and wild into like being very helpful and supportive and
Yeah.
and very spiritual.
Yeah, this is new mythology, spirituality. The Tapestry of Tala, Threads of Destiny, is a mythic tale of grief, friendship, remembrance, and the alchemy of soul. It is a legacy of the ones who stayed, the ones who listened, and the ones who dared to weave again. This story is for you if you've ever felt the pull of something invisible, if you've ever known a truth too deep for words, if you're still carrying a vow you never got to speak. So it's a modern. It follows Tala, which is her name, which means star. Also means speaks, and rhythm. In Tagalog is star. Scandinavian is speaks, and rhythm is Sanskrit, I believe. So it follows her over the course of 3 days, a gathering, and
What kind of gathering?
similar to the ones we have around here, maybe an ecstatic dance or a camp out or a festival or just a gathering of Beltane, that kind of thing, definitely. And dealing with what has come before and where we are now and how are we dealing with this? How are we building things new? There's some characters in here, and they get into deep stuff, and the dialogue is guarded at first, and then gets deep and gets into.
Thank you, David. Thank you, DJ Davidos.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you.
Later, brother.
Deep emotion, and what makes people real, and the stuff that gets in the way, which is not truth. It's kind of got a flow. My flow is Tao, the way, and so it's it has an oracle in there, and that's the oracle's.
Did the AI create that too?
I created it
Nice.
with help.
But like the AI, did you start to have feelings for this AI?
Feelings for the AI? No, not really. I appreciate the tool for sure.
Yeah.
I think you can go as deep with it as you are.
So
Actually,
I believe that.
yeah. So as far as like, it's almost like for me, it's like having a tool that gives my brain more power, basically, to know what I know and know what I want, know what I have a concept of, and know what my experience has been. But also, I get to pull in all this beautiful information that's available and organized in a different way than my brain can do it, and utilize that, but make sure my soul is in there. And I get it. I get it that there's people that are using the tool and relying too much on it, maybe, or whatever, and they're like pumping out stuff that doesn't have, soul in it. Or, I mean, it does actually. When you get down to it, it really does. But
I like what you just said about like it almost feels like a collaboration, right? That it's you, but you're also drawing from this other source, and you're getting inspiration and giving inspiration.
Yeah.
And if you were doing that with another human, that would be very similar. And I wonder if what some of the backlash to AI might be the fact that it's taking away the human-to-human collaboration in any way, and it's making it so that people who might not, could benefit from that kind of collaboration are skipping that step and are kind of indulging. I'm not at all saying that you are, but I've heard this a lot that people are indulging in their without something to bounce their ideas off of.
I mean, I love the idea of telling a computer what to do without touching it. Just talking to it. I don't want to touch it. So is that what you did, or did you do a lot of typing?
I did both. I had a lot of writing that I had done ahead of time and put not all of it, but some of it in there. And so it learned a lot from me first, to where it could relate my writing to what their AI training is, which is all, all the books and all the, all the culture that they call it, AI calls it training. I named AI and actually put it in the book a little bit. I represent it as another little crystal sphere.
Cool.
And so, yeah, it was a very interesting process. It started out with actually exploring shadows, human shadows. I was interested in that and trying to uncover the unconscious ways we get in our own way and get in the way of relationship and doing art, basically, because our life is art. Our legacy is art. That everything that you all are doing with your art, that's your legacy. That's what's going to be here when you aren't.
And it's really crazy because now with social media, literally your life is going to be able to be played back.
Yeah, kind of.
Not the whole thing, but a lot of it.
Well, a piece of it. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of Ram Dass, and when I get lost a little bit, I lose my confidence that I know anything at all. There's always a Ram Dass podcast to listen to that brings you just right back to like right now.
Yeah.
What is actually the truth of right now? And in a lot of our communication, even words, words are great, and it's also a tool, but many times it's not the real thing. It's not what actually is real. It's a description of what's real. That's what's cool about art. Art is the real thing. It's the thing, and then we can talk about it, and maybe communicate on some level with, oh yeah, I agree with that or whatever, or I don't agree with that, but there's no arguing that painting, any of his paintings, that's the thing,
And that book is the thing, so thank you for
Yes, actually, I feel like that too.
Thank you for creating.
I asked AI about, how do I credit this, because I got help, and I used the tool the way it felt the best for me to do. I must admit, it wouldn't have happened. I was told 10 years ago in a psychic session with a massage therapist, and her talent was to channel. She channeled my soul guides, and she named them like 8 or 10 of them. And she had an office. I shared an office with her actually, full of crystals and just magic and just magical office, not lots of tools and stuff. But her talent was to channel basically. And she named all my soul guides. And at the time, they said, "You're going to write a book," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, really?" Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, whatever, but it didn't really resonate that much at that time. And here it is, like about 10 years later, and pops this out.
That's cool.
So it's pretty cool. So.
Okay.
So art is the thing, and doing it collaboratively with another person or AI is badass. That's the message. Just be creative.
Yeah, that was a badass story Brian told about the getting collaborators together against everyone's will, and then like really shifting what festival art was after that. I mean, now every transformational festival, which is a festival that is like, I mean, there's so many production people in this community that put on these transformational festivals, and the idea of that is to have this like lived in the moment art experience where you're immersed every moment in some kind of different art, whether it's music or what's in front of you with sight or the artistry of costumes. And so to have these, now at every transformational festival, there's these collaborative art galleries where you can walk by or stay all night. I mean, I have stayed all night at watching two artists collaborate in the, while there's a lull in the music from one stage to another. So, yes, thanks for that cultural moment, Brian, that you seeded in there.
I just went to the play that the Chinese theater did, the Dragon, I can't remember.
Cats, yeah, it's the theater company. I forget the show.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful play. It's like I'm sitting there in these dragon, the dragon costumes and all the actors and all the set and everything. It was like a huge collaboration. It was like beautifully done, and it's a myth. I had not heard of the myth before, and I'm like, yeah. Even before that, this last year, I bought a really beautiful painting by one of the artists here. They're going to be here in August, Casey, and I put on my Facebook. I had all this download of like, what are we doing, and where are we going, and where do we need to be upgraded? But one of the things was like more art. I mean, art leads. Art
is healing.
It's everything. It leads. I mean, it gives the vision.
Art is everything for sure. It does lead, so it's critical to lead correctly.
Yeah.
With positivity and love. So I think it's a great place to close up this beautiful episode, is that be creative, be collaborative, and wield your magic.
And share it with your community.
Tell your
Consciously.
stories. Yeah.
Tell your story.
Live your story.
Big thing I always
Be
think about
fearless.
is the chakras. To get to the higher chakras, you have to go through your throat chakra. You have to speak your story into the world, speak your soul into the world, and that's what art is for me, is different ways, all the different ways to tell your story, to talk, to tell the world and yourself.
You have a glorious voice, Sky, too.
Oh, thanks.
We'll get him to sing Johnny Cash here sometime.
Sing us a little Johnny Cash for our closing.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I'll walk the line.
We'll catch you next time here at the Nirvana City Podcast. Peace, love, and animals. Thank you all for playing today.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, yeah.
Thank you, Sharon and Elixir.
All glories to dog. All glories to the dog.
Thank you, Brian, for doing the behind the scenes
Brian.
AV work.
With